Hi folks, welcome back. Taco here, doing another episode 9 now. My last couple episodes were kind of confusing. Episode 9 of Taco Bonsai. I'm trying out a different camera position, slightly higher, and I'm trying out a different method for placing plants so they're easy to see. Of course, I'll refine this over time, but I think this is going to be better anyways, just for seeing the plants. I have a little different light, but I think it works okay. I don't think it's taken some detail away. But today, on this episode, I'm going to go through some of my outcasts. By outcasts, I mean things that basically didn't make it or are just not likely to make it or kind of ugly. But I'll dive right in. I showed you folks before my Poinsettia, the one that was very thick at the base for being a store-bought plant. That one is doing good. However, it has two neighbors that were in the same pot that I don't think made it. This is one of them, not quite as big. It had good taper to it, but it looks like it's got better taper than it really did because it is just shrunken up. To me, when I see a poinsettia shrink up, I think this one's a goner. So I think this one's a goner. It did have really nice roots, but I don't think they saved it. Still pretty sturdy in the pot, or I'd pull it out and show you the roots. There's even some on the surface that I can like touch and feel, and it's possible it could get some root suckers. I just don't think it's gonna happen for me. So one less plant for the future that I have to show you guys while I work on, which is good. Watching another creator, Nigel, this last week, and he was talking about how he has so many plants. He's not trying to get more plants. If one dies that he really likes, that's one thing. And I felt that because I do get plants all the time, but I usually only get new plants if it's something I don't have or something I really want to see its potential in my care. Poinsettias, I had one that didn't do too well. You've seen a couple that I have now that aren't like great, but they're pretty healthy. Dog drinking, that's not me peeing myself, don't worry. That only happens on other days of the week. Sorry, this is the other poinsettia. Again, this is all shrunken up, it's dead. Of course, I have the trash can next to me, but I miss it. Right? I'm a regular Michael Jordan. I think it's his birthday today too. So yeah, another dead poinsettia. Nothing surprising there. These were frozen, so it doesn't shock me. I do like the pots that I've got them in for starting new, smaller plants, but those ones just didn't make it. So 2 down. These are, I don't actually remember where these are from. I think one of them even had a little bit of root on it when I put it in here. I'm trying this out. It's a little experiment. I've got some more here. These are root cuttings from a ficus. I think one of them might even be, this might be from my ficus, my willow leaf ficus. I don't remember. I've seen 2 different names for the willow leaf ficus from scientific standpoint, so I'm not going to attempt that. Willow leaf ficus. These I do not have raised up, but I use toilet paper rolls or paper towel rolls cut, and I fill them up with bonsai soil. My thinking there is that the toilet paper roll is a good indicator as to whether or not it's dry or wet, much in the way terracotta would be. It doesn't disintegrate quickly, but in the case that I need to quickly slip pot it, I can put this in there, and in the future I'll be able to very easily cut it out. It does, I'm sure, control some of the root growth into a very small area, but I think that might be good too. It'll probably give me more roots higher up that are thicker, and more roots lower down that are finer that I can use for growing and feeding the tree. This may be a crepe myrtle. I don't know. It may not make it either, so it doesn't matter. And this one may be related to my other ones here that are in a different container, trying to root. This may be a black locust. I love black locust. I've not seen a black locust bonsai tree, I think. If I have, I didn't know it was a black locust, but I'd really like to see one. I love their giant thorns. These or honey locust, and I took them off a tree that, honestly, if this thing was a bonsai, like bonsai size, would be gorgeous. It's delicate. These huge thorns are beautiful. The foliage on it is beautiful. So this is like a soap dish or a sponge holder. It's got nice holes in the side. Of course, it's got drains down below. I haven't had roots out of it yet, and in fact now this one's kind of loose when it isn't supposed to be. Yeah, they were packed in pretty well. I'm not concerned that I haven't seen roots yet. I have seen a little bit of dieback on the little side branches. Here, I'll use like right here, side branches that died back. There's one here and one back here. I'm not alarmed by that. I also know that having these thorns on here gives it a little better chance. I did break one, and by break I mean hurt myself with it. But these are still green to scratch, so I'm gonna let them continue to try to root. I've been keeping it damp. You can see it's not soaking wet, but it's not dry. It looks damp, which is good. And there's 3 in there, black locust cuttings, or sorry, honey locust cuttings, so I'm hoping that they make it. Also, I have, this is I think this is Trident maple. Just whatever I had to put it in. It's got all kinds of holes in the bottom, so it drains really nicely. Right now it probably needs a little bit of water. It's barely damp, but I'm hoping it'll root. I've heard they're not easy to root from some. I've seen that they're rootable from a cutting, but I've just heard that they're not easy. So I'm going to continue to be diligent about this one. I haven't done the scratch test because I don't want to disturb it. I don't want to jiggle it around. But yeah, that is, I believe that's a Trident maple. It could be an amber maple. I've got both. But it doesn't seem to be doing too bad. I don't see huge dieback that's shriveling up. Again, the trunk part of it, which was cut by someone else, so I assume this is my Trident. This is an old cut that someone else did. It's not healing or anything, but I would assume that it would start shriveling around that, and you would be able to see in the bark that's not doing great. Looks fine to me. All right. These are cuttings off of my crab cactus, which is a succulent. It's not a cactus. I don't know if they rooted into the container, but that's kind of the nice thing. I always bury these 1 segment deep, and then I get nice little, you can barely see it here, maybe with the reflection, aerial roots. So I can take those, plant them deeper with the aerial roots, and they'll root. They have to dry out in order to root, which is fine. So I might have to cut off those lower segments when I bury them, but I'd like to keep them on if they're not rotten, at least to give the plants a little more stability. So these are 2 cuttings that are rooting. Actually, no, I do see there's some roots here. Whether or not they're doing well, I don't know, but there are some roots, so success on that one. The last one of the rejects. I've got so many more. This is one of my saddest rejects. This is a part of a cutting. I took a cutting of a Acer Griseum, I think it is. I might be wrong on that, but I think it's Griseum. The Paperbark maple, and it's got beautiful, beautiful bark. Even on this little branch, all this little flaky bark. And when a tree is this small and it's got flaky bark like that on that scale, it makes it look like such a great miniature version of its larger plant. And I was so excited. This is just a limb off of that. It was a very large one. I was going to do a formal upright. It had a couple of these coming off like this, which are already basically pads with very little work. I assumed a little bit of dieback, but really the main structure of that isn't bad. You know, until it gets out to here and here, it really has great bifurcation. And even this is bifurcation, but I would have to lose one of those. Same here, I'd have to lose one, but I didn't do that. This is how it grew naturally. Gorgeous bark. It's very, very hard wood. The same as I commented on Tony's bonsai. And again, Tony, thank you for interacting with me. Again, someone who I've been watching for a long time, and it's I don't know, all these, to me, these are all YouTube celebrities. So they're being very welcoming and very interactive with me. People who I comment, like, they're fantastic. It feels like a real community. And as you can imagine, a lot of the internet doesn't feel like a community, even though it's called that way. So when I was sawing through this to get my cutting, I cut off the tree with a machete because it was faster. But that's my shtick, I guess. I use a machete for cuttings. But I cleaned it up later, and I used a saw to cut it off, so I had a clean cut. It took me forever, and it was so difficult, and I felt that same way just watching Tony cut through his, I think it was silver birch he was cutting through. Oh man, it looked painful. He did it, don't get me wrong. He went through it pretty clean, pretty fast, with a lot of power, but I'm just imagining how I would have felt after that. And, man, same way as cutting through this. The cuttings, of course, failed. I've been told this is really difficult to root from cuttings. I've also been told it's nearly impossible to root from seeds. I should have known when I grabbed it. This branch was green when I grabbed it, but all these buds were black already. I guess they're not supposed to be black. I thought it was interesting if they had black buds, and I'd seen pictures of them with black buds, but yeah, this was already a lost cause before I got into it and started. But oh well, another one. I was saving it because I just liked the way the bark looked, to remind myself to try again. I did try an air layer with this tree. I'll see in the spring if it is gone, like still attached to the tree or not. But it was lower on this branch, so it probably didn't. It probably also died like the rest of the branch did. The branch was dying, which is why I chose that branch to try to make cuttings and to do an air layer. I didn't want to take a healthy branch and ruin it when there was already a branch on its way out. I'd rather fail than potentially harm the tree in a way that's irreversible, especially when it already didn't look great. These aren't all failures. These are cuttings from my dinner plate Aurelia and words, use your words. Come on, Taco. Umbrella, that's the one. For my dinner plate Aurelia and my umbrella tree. And then this one is a cutting, I think, from that Poinsettia. And it seems to be doing okay. I can't tell. It seems to be the only one that's doing well in this particular container, which means I will probably have to, maybe not, I'll probably have to take that one out and give it a new home. Just looking, yeah, like a lot of these are just shrunken messes. They just didn't have the right conditions. I don't know if the dinner plate Aurelia needs more moisture, less moisture, if it needs to dry out first. I just don't have any experience with this. But yeah, these are all rotted and dying. If any of them had roots, I'd tuck them back in, but they just don't. This, I think, is from the umbrella tree, and it did seem to have some resistance, so I'm going to leave it for now. I've got a lot of those. I'll show you some more next episode, but rather than disturb them, yeah, none of these really. So I'll take out. This is the umbrella tree. Maybe not. I don't know. Doesn't have any roots though. This is a lot of trying to root cuttings from plants I'm not familiar with. I'm sure a lot of guys have gone through this, gals have gone through this, you know, whatever your preferred adjective is, pronoun. I'm sure some people have gone through this where you just don't know the plant. You do what you know to get a cutting to root. I don't really know how I get cuttings to root when I do, but these clearly aren't doing it. Poinsettia is easy. Usually ficus is pretty good. Crepe myrtle is super, super easy. I can do crepe myrtles all day long, but I think most people can. I think I've had success in the past with persimmon, but I'm not 100% on that. Yeah, that's not got either. So maybe this one isn't as attached as I thought it was. This one's not. And this is the container that those poinsettias came in. So you can imagine they were smashed in there. They weren't very healthy. No, that's just a mess of branches that were below. All right, well, the only one that seems to be doing okay in this was this poinsettia cutting, so I'm gonna leave it. It's probably all right. This is a loose, it's mostly bark, so I need to repot it into something that's a little bit less organic, keep those pests away. Thank you, Jay from Zenobia Bonsai. You were saying that pine bark in particular, but organic soil really harbors all these pests that I've been battling. Today has been really bad because it's raining outside. I can't have anything opened up. everything that was opened up is now just bugs swirling around. So I've got my fly paper up and everything. This is another container with cuttings that I'm not sure any of them have made it. That's just hair. Cool. Again, from the umbrella tree and the dinner plate Balfour Aurelia, it looks like some of these are doing okay, not all of them, but these two at least. I might have other cuttings tucked in here. This may be my Amber maple. It might be a cutting from that, I can't recall. I did do all of this months ago, so things that aren't making it now definitely aren't going to make it, and things that look okay probably will. However, some of these trees were dormant, like an Amber is dormant, and Balfour Aurelia does not grow quickly, or so I've been told. I think mine grow pretty quick. So yeah, that's where I'm at on kind of the rejects episode. So that was episode 9. That's a good portion of the plants, and there's a good portion less to show off in the future because, of course, not all of them made it. Thank you for watching. Thank you to all the creators who have been supportive, and I know I keep thanking everybody, but subscribers, viewers, content creators, everybody. Everyone's been supportive, everyone's been interactive, everyone's been very positive and polite and encouraging. And in no exaggeration, all those things they've been doing in spades. Everyone's been great. So thank you all. Anybody who is watching this for the first time, welcome. I'm Taco Bonsai. I'm just working through introductions now. This is episode 9, the 8th episode of introductions. And I will continue to do introductions for at least a few episodes. Subscribe, like, what's the other one? Comment, interact in any way. I don't know if you can even send messages on YouTube, but if you can send me a message too. It's probably just as easy to comment, unless you've got something you're ashamed to say out loud. I don't think there's anything embarrassing to say out loud. In fact, in my next video, I think I'm going to be asking some content creators and bonsai enthusiasts, anybody who has advice for me, some advice on some of my trees that I just am stuck on or don't have any idea. So thank you again for watching,